Hey everybody, it's Rory from A&S Gear, and we're upstairs at the table like we normally do. We're gonna try something a little different though. We're gonna start putting out videos from my bench downstairs where I normally do all of my work and servicing guns. We're gonna start a line of videos that is going to help you become a more confident, better paintball player when it comes to managing your own gear. How to fix your guns, common problems that I see with equipment, how to fix tanks, loaders, all those things that we always get questions about. Hopefully these videos can help you solve your own problems and not be relying on someone else to do for you. So I'm trying to help you out, make you a more confident, better paintball player. So watch the videos. We're gonna upload all sorts of content. Thanks for watching, ansgear.com. All right, so we have an Axe 2.0 in front of us right now that was sent in by a customer because it is leaking down the barrel. And if we screw a tank into it, we'll see that it is just blowing air down the front. Now this is straight out of the box as we received it from them. And again, this is a common issue that I see guns coming in that are doing this type of thing. So I'm going to look at a couple things right off the bat and kind of try to determine where the problems are just without really even taking anything apart. I'm going to go over the gun and kind of look at it. First thing I always do is look at the regulator at the bottom, and I can see already that the screw for the regulator, which right here, which under normal operating conditions should be just about flush with the end of the cap right here. So that's a good starting point for regulator setting, because this obviously has no gauge on it on either side. So rule of thumb is always put this screw flush. Now this screw is down probably 3 turns inside, which makes me worry already because it's never should be that far in. And also if I look at the back, the velocity adjusting cap, which is right here, is flush with the back. When this is getting you a velocity of about 275, 280 feet per second, this should be about 3/4 of a turn out from all the way in. So what I mean by that is, if you can see it's flush right here, if I turn this all the way in like that, then I go 3/4 of a turn out. This plus the appropriate setting right here should get me a velocity of roughly 275 to 280 feet per second. But as you can see, this gun has been turned all the way out, probably because they weren't able to get velocity out of it in the first place because something was wrong. So they figured, oh, I'm going to turn this all the way out to turn my velocity way up and try to get it to accommodate for that. So we're going to adjust this to where it should be. So we're going to go back in to where it stops right there, and then we are going to go 3/4 of a turn out. Now the next thing I'm going to look at is the regulator at the bottom. Now I can probably tell you what's wrong with this right now. I'm going to guess that the customer has either lost the regulator spring plate or has put the regulator spring plate in upside down or in the wrong spot. So let's go ahead and look at it and we'll see where it ends up, because that screw should never be in that deep. So I'm going to lift this off. First thing I see is the plate isn't even there. The plate should be sitting on top of the spring so that when you adjust the screw inside here, the screw pushes against the plate and then the plate adjusts the spring to then adjust regulator pressure. If I take the spring off, you can see that this plate is on the bottom, which it should not be. Luckily, the plate didn't get stuck in here. What I see happen a lot of times is people take this plate. This looks like, well, that's a perfect cutout for this plate, so the plate should fit right down inside there. It does not. It does not go down in there. The spring sits in there, and then the plate sits on top of it. Now the plate has a lifted or raised side, and it has a concave side. The lifted side, or the mountain side, goes into the spring, and the concave side goes towards the screw right there. So that's how that should be. So what I'm going to do, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reset this spring out, or the screw out like that. And I'm going to put it out way further than it needs to be. And then I'm going to put this back on top. And then I'm going to tighten that down. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it at flush right there. So that's flush with that. We're 3/4 of a turn in from that. Now we're going to take our tank and we're going to put it on and we're going to see what it does. Now there's a very high possibility that this still leaks down the top right here, but we don't know yet. It's just pissing air out the front. So that leads me to the next thing, which could be the solenoid armature inside there is stuck and it's not moving up and down inside of there, or the poppet is stuck and it's not closing and it's just letting air come down the front. So we can always check the poppet by taking the velocity adjuster and turning it all the way in to close the poppet all the way down. And in that position, there shouldn't be no air coming down the face of the bolt. Still leaking through there. So I'm going to take this and put it back, 3/4 turn. Be right there. I'm going to turn the gun on. Let's just see if their eyes work. Eyes are working, which is good. I'm going to put it in dry fire. I'm going to pull the trigger a couple times to get that armature to start moving up and down, back and forth inside of there. Now that I can hear the armature popping up and down, I'm going to gas it up. Now I do hear a slight leak coming from this area right here. But as you can see, we have solved the problem with the gun leaking down the breech. It doesn't leak anymore. It shoots, and it's shooting. I can feel it. It's got great velocity right now, 270s probably. But it was very simple to solve that problem. That just unloading air down the breech. The solenoid is stuck and it's not allowing the armature to seal properly inside there. So we cycled the solenoid a couple times and then solved the problem. Now this leak, we're gonna do a little bit of exploring. We couldn't even tell that this leak was happening because of how loud the other leak was. So until we've controlled one leak, now we can kind of figure out where this other one is coming from. So it seems like the connection between this lower transfer tube and the upper transfer tube is leaking right here. Now I want to make sure that the bottom of the solenoid isn't leaking. So I'm putting my thumb over the bottom of the solenoid and I don't hear any air coming out of there. Or I don't feel it changing, I don't hear it changing. But when I put my hand around here, I do hear it. So this is what we're gonna do now. We're gonna take this off. We're going to pull the frame off of here. But unfortunately, with this particular gun, in order to pull the frame off of here, we have to remove all these things off the front as well. So let's get this off of here, get this off of here. So once we've got this off, we can pull this off. We can remove this screw from the front. Then we can remove the two frame screws, rear, and you want to make sure that obviously the gun is degassed and not under pressure when you're trying to do this. And then we can separate these two pieces apart. Now, typically this leak, I'm going to lift this out of here so you can see it. Right here. is this O-ring that's right on here. And I'm going to pull it off, and then I'm going to go grab one. And again, it's a very thin, tiny little O-ring right there that goes around this piece. There's another O-ring, if I pull this off, at the top up there, which doesn't feel like it's right to me. So I'm going to replace both of these O-rings because I'm pretty sure one of these is supposed to be red and one of them is supposed to be black. And it looks like somebody went in there and replaced the wrong O-ring inside there. And again, with the amount of stuff that was wrong with this, it doesn't surprise me that somebody has gone into here and then monkeyed around with this one as well. So I'm going to pause the video real quick so I can go grab the two correct O-rings, and then we'll be right back. All right, so we are back right here, and I've grabbed my two O-rings. So I grabbed the replacement for this one right there, and then the correct O-ring for the top. Now you can see the difference in these two O-rings. Well, hopefully you can see the difference. This red one is much thicker and is a little bit bigger also. Now this red O-ring goes on the top of the upper transfer tube right here in order to seal it against the housing up here. This smaller black O-ring, which goes down here, doesn't have enough material to properly seal at the top up here. So I'm going to take this one and put it around the top where it should be, like that. Take the new black one, put it down here where it should be. I'm gonna get a little bit of grease right here. Put it on that O-ring at the bottom. This one really doesn't need it, but I've got a little bit left over on my finger, so I'm just gonna do that anyway. And then I'm gonna screw this up into here and, oh yeah. I can feel that O-ring in that housing or in that pocket right there, where this one was just screwed up against the top and wasn't doing anything. So then, just to make sure, I'm going to take a little grease, put it on that inside lip right there. I'm going to make sure I feel it. Oh, yep, good feel, good fit right there. Good contact all the way around. I'm going to put this back in the bottom right here. But since I've got this piece out, it's kind of hard to see, but down inside here, there's an O-ring that sits down in the base down here. I'm going to pop it out real quick. This O-ring seals the bottom like that. So if you ever have a leak coming from in between the frame and the ASA, then that's your culprit right there. You're probably missing this O-ring, or you might have taken your gun apart and then you forgot to put it on there. There's a lot of possible issues with that. So we're going to just tighten that back down. We've got the O-ring in place. We're going to put our upper and lowers together. And as we slide these in, you always want to make sure that your wiring is out of the way, that it's not going to get pinched by anything you see inside here. And then what I do for this one is those two pieces have gone together. Now the O-ring hasn't dropped all the way in yet, but before I just squash this thing together, you have to look up at the front up here and make sure that the 8 pins that are on the top of your board are going into the 8 holes that are in the socket for the upper board. So this is your sensor board, has your trigger on it right here. These pins need to line up. And if you just take this frame and stick it together, it is very easy to get like 4 of the pins in here, and then the other 4 are actually in front, or 4 in here and the other 4 are behind. You'll go to try to shoot your gun, the battery starts to get real hot, starts to do weird things, the eyes don't work. So it's very important that you line the pins up. So I've got that lined up right there. I'm going to turn it, and I look to make sure that the 2 on the side are going in the furthest to the side pins, and they're both lined up. If those 2 are in right, then you know all the other ones are going to be in right. And then you can just push it together. All right. Looking good, looking good. Everything's together. Sometimes, if you don't remove the bolt out of the back, You can see when I tried to put this in, let me see if I can get it to do it. You see how it doesn't close right there? There's a gap in between the frame and the body, or the frame and the transfer plate, and that's because of the bolt. So if I just push that in, you can see how that shuts down real quick. It's probably just better to do it without the bolt in there to begin with, but it really doesn't really matter either way. You just got to be careful. Look for the gap. If you tried to assemble the gun with that gap inside there, gun wouldn't leak. You might squash something. Problems could occur. So let's put this back together. We'll put our front screw in as well. All right, so that's together. We got that together. Let's put our bolt back together. I'm gonna just check this to make sure it feels good. It's got grease on it. Another thing with any of these model guns is the spring. So this spring may look like it's the same size on both ends, but it's not. One side is narrower than the other. If you take your spring and you try to push it against the front of your bolt and it doesn't go over, that's without pushing hard or putting some firm pressure on it. That's the narrow end. See how it doesn't want to go past there? If I flip it over to the other side, it goes on no problem. The side that goes on no problem like this is not the side you want to put on your bolt. You should have to try to push it over. It should not easily go on there. You have to put a little force, pop it over, and then it will lock into the bottom. The wide side will not lock into the bottom. It'll just free float. So it is very important that your spring goes on the right way. Locked together. We haven't adjusted our regulator since we set it properly. This is still set the same. We've changed this O-ring. We've changed that top O-ring. Now let's see what the gun does. Hopefully, we've solved all of our leaks. You can hear that. No leak coming out from here anymore. No leak down the breech. No leak up the feed neck. No leak from the bottom of the solenoid. And everything seems a-okay. So let's get it put back together with our grips. We'll put these ones on. Axe 2.0 grips. They do have this little lip in the front on the top. So you always want to make sure that you tuck that under first. We'll do that on this side, and then we'll put this in. Get that one in there. Get this one in here. Flip it over. Again, we got to tuck that little lip underneath there. Pull this back so our screws line up in the right spot. And then after that, we'll put our regular grips back on. And that solves the problem. So all that noise coming down the front of this gun was caused, I wouldn't want to say customer induced, but it was definitely customer exacerbated. It was made worse by improper adjustment, improper assembly, and then improper O-ring on there, all in the hopes of possibly trying to solve the problem. But hopefully this helps people understand what causes the problem and how to fix it. There'll be many more, I'm sure, videos on 2.0s, mini GSs, all those guns, because we have lots of customer questions about them. It's an amazing selling gun. So of course, the more you sell of something, the more issues you're going to run into. So hopefully we can solve your problems with these guys. See you in the next video.